Hi everybody, welcome to this very special episode. Today we bring you two very special guests, Tobias Maere and Charles de Maere. Very similar names, spookily enough. Both of them are bringing a wealth of experience, a wealth of qualification. They are renowned in the industry for what they do, and it's very rare to actually have a moment like we are going to be sharing today. So without further ado, let's go across to Tobias and to Charles and talk to them. So hi guys, how are you? So Charles, thank you for coming all this way from Belgium. It's wonderful. And Tobias, sometimes I call you Toby.
It's all right.
When I'm just in that
You're allowed.
playful mood. And thank you for coming all the way from Sheffield.
Yeah, it took me longer to get to you than it took Charles. I think it was quite a trek.
It's just amazing, isn't it, how things are set up? You'd never guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how are you feeling, Charles? How are you? Let's just...
I'm really excited. I mean, just the prospect of having a conversation with both of you is just already filling my day. So
Oh, bless you,
yeah,
bless you.
Really feeling well. I know.
That's so good. And Tobias, how about yourself? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm very excited. So I was expecting to come here and have a conversation with you, meeting Mandy on the couch. And lo and behold, my very good friend Charles is greeting me at the station. So that was a lovely surprise, and the idea of doing this three-way conversation is quite exciting, actually. Yeah, looking forward to this.
I'm
Riffing with Charles.
Yeah, riffing. I mean, I'm a firm believer that some things are just meant to happen. This kind of world of like acceptance when good things are happening, it's the good things. We we're sort of welcoming them into our lives. So I'm going to start off with Tobias. Tobias, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So, you've got such a very, very rich background, a wealth of experience, qualifications, from the point of view of, how do you get qualified? Well, you have to have some experiences, and then you can share with everybody like how you've got to where you have. But how did some of your early sort of career, early moments shape you as a person?
Got such a big question, isn't it? So, well, first of all, I've only been in the IT industry for a percentage of my working life. I came probably 30 years ago. I started doing this work. I'm 66. Right, so that's already I guess I was 30. I think I was 36 when I started university. That was the first time I went to university to study software engineering. And I was a bit of a lost soul before that, sort of wandering from place to place and job to job and career to career that never really took off. So, but when I discovered software development, it just felt like I was home. And so I had to then go on and study that and get a degree and start working in the industry. So that was in the late 1995. Yeah, 1995 I went to South Bank University, London University. And, I was working as a software developer for a long time. But prior to that, I'd worked a lot in theatre work. I'd done stage management work and lighting design work. I'd been a graphic designer in my early 20s. I'd done quite a lot of community work as well. I'd worked in the Refugee Council in London. I'd worked with kids who were, school had given up on, basically.
Okay.
Ran day classes with kids who were excluded from school.
Yeah.
And quite, and I worked with back to, I'm working with unemployment people, getting back to work. So all of that kind of work, that youth work, community work, was where I built my facilitation skills, I guess. I learned from one particularly great facilitator in that world, and carried a lot of that with me into this work. So I thought, when I sort of left that behind as I transitioned into becoming a software developer, and we moved from the UK to the Silicon Valley, which is where it was all at, back then. there was a disconnect, between my old life, all of the things I'd done there, the stuff in the arts and the stuff with community, and this new life of what people was calling in those days were calling engineering, science. And but I knew that there was a connection between, but I didn't know what it was until I discovered Scrum, or Agile, extreme programming, and I started to realize that was the connection. And there was this wonderful moment when I went and did the CSM class after having read quite a bit about this. And there was a man called Kurt Peterson who was the co-training with Ken Schwaber. And Kurt had studied the work of Augustus Boal, who created this thing called Theatre of the Oppressed in Brazil, working with people who were really suffering under oppression and using theatre to kind of help them reinvent their lives. And he was applying this in a Scrum class. And I had applied this in my work with teenagers. And so there was this moment, I just thought, this is where I'm supposed to be. It was like you were saying earlier, there's some moments that just happen. And so Kurt and I became very, very good friends from that point onwards. And he was a really great kind of mentor in my early days of doing Scrum. And I started to see how all of this previous experience I had would come to bear in this new work that I was doing. And so I've moved on from, I started at that point to move away from actually being a programmer, which I miss. I have to say I do as much as I can still, but I miss that. But then into teaching and facilitating and consulting with organizations, helping them get into this new way of working.
And this is interesting because you enjoyed the development, the software, the tinkering. I want to just ask you, you miss it and you had to let it go. How did you do that? Like, how have you managed to do that? Because many an engineer, developer.
Well, I suppose it was a sort of a natural process, really.
Okay.
For the first thing that happened was I was asked to be a manager. Right? So, and this is the funny thing about the corporate world. I spent 4 years at university studying software development, and I got very good at it. And then I had experience of doing it. And so I was a good software developer. And they made me into a manager, and I accepted, thinking that I would be managing and creating software. But it turned out that I wasn't. I was just going to be a manager. They sent me on a half-day training, right? So, and this is a pattern we see in the corporate world. They lose good developers and they gain half-assed managers, basically. So 4 years to become a software developer meant I was quite a good one. Half a day to become a manager. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like you should just know how to do it because you're good at one thing. You should be good at this other thing. And they made me that because obviously I had like what they were, they love to call people skills. I love that. Cute little way of expressing it. I had people skills.
It's cute.
Yeah, people skills. And so they could see that I could probably do that work, but there was no sort of formal training for it. And so that's when I went on this bit of a journey to thought, well, how do I manage people? And I'd had some experience of it in the past in another industry, but not really. And that's when I kind of stumbled into Scrum. I was already on some of the XP lists. And I kept hearing what about Scrum, and then I kind of asked people what it was, and they said, well, it's sort of a way of managing. I thought, that's what I want. Manage things. Let me. And so then I kind of it sort of turned things around.
No, that's wonderful.
But I felt, losing losing or having it taken away, really, the opportunity to be a developer was. I just carried on doing it in my own time for myself. I would have my own projects I was working on, and I still do all my own website work. And
no, that's good. I mean, you do lots of work, and we'll touch upon that.
I have little moments.
Has there been any kind of like mentor or influencer in your life, like a really significant?
Well, these two people I've mentioned. Excuse me. The one the person who taught me facilitation skills, really, he was younger than me. He was just graduated as a drama student and was interested in this kind of way. He became a teacher eventually, but he taught me a lot about the Augusta Boal way of working. and we applied that. So I would class him as a mentor.
Mm.
And then Kurt Peterson, who I learned Scrum from.
Okay.
Were my early influences. In fact, it was those two men that I dedicated my book, People Scrum, was dedicated to both of them. Because they really were kind of a strong influence. But apart from those guys and their touch points, it wasn't like we walked a long journey together. It was just the influence.
Yeah.
Those moments sort of changed the direction. But I've met so many people like that, including this man sitting next to us right now. Very important influence on me, I think, and so many other people, Mandy, as well. And I don't. Mentoring for me, that sort of mentorship relationship is usually two-way.
Yeah.
It's rarely like I'm the mentor and somebody's the mentee. There's always a back and forth. There's a conversation, and I can learn. Like when I taught a CSM class, I teach CSM quite often online now, and I'm amazed. I just did one, and I was amazed what I learned from the students I was supposedly teaching. And these moments that kind of go, oh wow, I never thought of it like that before. So
it's like a mutual respect, isn't there? There's this.
But to me, this is really one of the key skills that I nicked from you, I guess. There's like this whole opening up the space and making it possible for people to give an answer that you don't expect, because ultimately this is also where you get this real two-way conversation.
Exactly.
So we'll talk about this in a minute. So let's go over to Charles-Louis and find out, Charles-Louis, how did your sort of early career begin? And to talk us through that.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was 15 or 16, I told my parents I wanted to study psychology.
Okay.
They told me, everybody's doing psychology. You're good at maths, you're good with computers. Why don't you do computer science? So there I go. Like totally different from your background. I started in IT quite soon. And then before you know it, my first work was handling, big software infrastructures for a corporate financial thing. And so I was writing scripts, migrating database and stuff like that, being called at night for supporting systems. Before you know it, and burnout in the middle of that thing, I went on to software development, working on the same systems that I used to maintain before. And an interesting thing was there that suddenly I realized that the software we were developing was based on business requests. So we could develop it. But if we were to tweak it a little bit, we could also make software that is easy to maintain for my former colleagues. But that was not part of the business requests. So bit by bit, I was like, why don't we kind of include them, or why don't we try and do something that is also easy to maintain and so on? It wouldn't cost us much more work. So bit by bit, I started to get interested into, okay, what is this thing? Because in my view, I realized that once you know how machines work together, it's easy. Like you get systems to work together as long as the interface and the software behind it is okay. But the hard part is to get human beings to align and to work together. That's, hard. So this is where the whole beauty, or the whole, I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how do we get to work together and to align on this? And so bit by bit, I got to learn that there are techniques, or there are ways to get people to work together. I heard a little bit about Scrum, but unlike I didn't move over to Silicon Valley to kind of be there and learn where it was. I was in Belgium, and I just heard, through some corridors, and back then I think I read a couple of blog posts by people. I must have read some of your stuff. There was also I think Joanna Rothman. Then I stumbled upon the book Agile Retrospectives by Esther Derby and Diana Larson. And this is where I learned how to do retrospectives. I did not have people who were at the birthplace of Scrum or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think I learned the hard way how to do it well or wrong, or I don't know. But ultimately I was working with teams who wanted to learn together. So we kind of figured it out together, which was an interesting approach, an interesting way to do it. Because, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But what we realized, we were trying to figure out together.
Yeah.
And we got some results where at some point a team decided that their 2-week sprints was too much because the product owner kept changing his mind in the middle of the sprint, like, oh, most of the stuff's already done. I saw the client, let's do some more stuff. And then at some point the team said, you know what, we're gonna have 1 week sprints. So you're gonna put a bit less, but we're gonna finish. And every week you can come and change your mind and do other stuff. But in doing so, they realized that the time it took to put stuff in production, and there was a time where we didn't have automated scripts and so on, took 2 to 3 hours. But if that happens once a week, 2 to 3 hours is half a day's work.
Yeah.
So then they said, how could we optimize this? And in the end, they developed an automated script that allowed, based on the result of the sprint review, to select the packages to deploy automatically onto production. So that team took ownership of their own processes.
Yeah.
Just because the whole system forced them to kind of solve that problem.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I love that. I love what you've just said there with regards to the whole system just forced them to. But the whole setup and giving them the space and also kind of giving them the ownership and not, that makes a big difference, because often I've heard Tobias talking about, well, lots of people actually talking about, people will assemble, people will, with Scrum, that, let people get on with it, and they will actually get things together, they'll organize themselves.
They'll figure it out.
They will figure it out. And, you don't have to do this kind of mammoth.
Amazing how so many people in positions of management misunderstand that idea. And they want to know how they can self-organize people. The irony somehow escapes them.
I will self-organize you.
Yeah, I'll self-organize you. But they want to somehow motivate. It comes from a good place. They want to motivate, empower, get them to kind of figure this stuff out. But they're in the way.
And maybe they come like you from a background where they were good at doing stuff. Then they're put in a position of management, and they want to be useful or helpful.
Exactly.
So.
But teaching people to be able to just step away and get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then you get what Charles is describing there is probably a team that didn't have managers breathing down their neck.
We had back at university, we had a lecturer who was really hands-on. And for some reason, when we were in our, sessions, lab sessions together, he just felt he couldn't get the students to do what he wanted. And in fact, when he left the lab, everybody did it. So there's quite sometimes you have to just leave people, don't you, and let them.
I do that with my kids now, when I tell them to do things and I'm bossing them around and saying, not like that, do it like this.
Yeah.
They don't do anything. So we just learn to get out of the run.
Yeah.
It might take a bit of time, but it happens.
Yeah.
And talking about kids, I see it also with my teenagers. I realize, the more I try to do stuff for them, the less I help them out. And like when my eldest daughter left home to learn the craft of upholstery, she, from one day to the other, she was out of the house. And then she also realized, and we realized how much of the stuff that we didn't do for her, she was now also able to do it for herself by herself. And
similar with my children, and also when we're having conversations, they've often said to me, Mum, I just want you to listen. Don't give me a solution. I just want you to listen. And I think quite often managers and team leaders and people can miss this in the world. Especially if we have kind of been accustomed to problem solving, we think, we have to problem solve.
Yeah. And this also comes back to what you were saying about half a day's training to become a manager. So, I mean, the best managers I've worked with came to me with a question and say, okay, let's figure it out. Let's find out together. And they didn't come with a solution or something. You need to do this or that way. But and this is a key skill that I see more and more with some of the organizations I work with, where managers take on facilitation skills so that they know where are the points that they need to be very direct on what needs to happen. Because facilitation is about figuring out how to solve a solution. But it's not bringing people randomly together and then figuring, do it together. Because if there's not a little bit of direction, they might solve the wrong problem. So there needs to be a little bit of direction, but it's also about knowing when to step away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this requires skill and practice.
Yeah.
It's not talent. It's not something that's given to you through.
No.
It's something that you need to practice and learn.
When to be able to let go.
Yeah.
The Peter principle that we make jokes about, so it's very real that people are promoted to their level of incompetence, and so I was promoted to be a manager, and I wasn't incompetent at that because I was able to be, find my way through that. But if I had been promoted on the basis of that to the next level, and at some point you get stuck. But what's interesting is, especially working in what we call the knowledge field, we do knowledge work. So it's on us to know, right? So the idea of saying I don't know is really difficult for people in positions of power, because if you say I don't know, it means you're incompetent, right? And so your incompetence, which you already feel inside you, is now becoming revealed because you just said I don't know, right? And so, but if you don't say I don't know, you can't learn anything. So the managers that you're talking about are coming to you saying I don't know, let's do this together. But it's so hard for people in positions of power to say that, because they're being watched by people above them. More power, and and they want that power, and how they're going to get there if they don't know.
It's interesting.
And to me, this is also the key thing, because when we start demonstrating that behavior, it flips things around. And whether as managers who start demonstrating, hey, I don't know, let's figure it together, you also inspire, actually, you're telling the system it's okay to behave like that. Yeah. And then people will also see okay, I will not get, ticked or, because I don't know something. And we can figure stuff out. It's just about getting the right people in the room.
I think that's it's so refreshing. I mean, if I were to put the telly on and hear politicians or hear any kind of leaders saying, you know what, we are actually going to figure this out. We are going, this kind of it throws a different kind of light out there in the world in terms of people are trying to work together to figure things out. But to kind of know it all, or have this bullshiness of it's just my way or the highway.
Well, the political system is a lovely example of what we're talking about. Is that a politician is never supposed to change their mind. What kind of insanity is that? You're considered weak if you said this last week and now you're saying this. Well, the world's changing information. I got more information. But this idea, I remember Margaret Thatcher's great line, this woman is not for turning. It sort of set a tone that you're not allowed to change your mind.
Because throughout our lives, we're changing. Every single day of our life.
We're changing, and so is the world around us.
Absolutely.
So are other people, and so is the situations that we're trying to deal with. And to not be able to come up with a different way of doing things, or to a politician, like you say, just say it's my way or the highway. We get that feeling from whoever it is, not just certain ones, probably all of them.
But then the interesting thing as well, especially for politicians or managers, when you look at Keith Grint's problem, there's the wicked problems, which are things like a pandemic. You don't have a clear solution. There's also the tame problems for which there is a path to victory. And there it's okay to say because it's you've been there before, and then you can share that. But it's about being able to distinguish the wicked problems, the tame problems, and then there's also the critical problems. If critical problem, the house is on fire, obviously I will boss everybody around you get out now. I will not hold facilitated gathering to say, okay, seems
should we stay? So what are the pros and cons?
Well, there was this lady, wasn't there? There was a lady on the 9/11 when everybody was leaving the Twin Towers, and she was obviously bewildered, or in her head, this bizarre, this kind of real absurd thing was happening around. Everybody had to leave the building, and there was smoke everywhere. And she was leaving. She was on the stairwell to leave, and then she turned back to go to her office desk to pick up a picture of her family, and then she never survived. You know, so this kind of moment of actually you've got to go.
Yeah.
So actually, let's nicely segue into a question for both of you. So, you know, either of you can go first. So the question is, can you walk us through a recent big decision and how you made it?
You gave us a bit of warning on this one, and I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
What is a big
Do
decision?
you have a big decision to talk about?
I don't know.
Or you could just remove the word big then.
I think, you know, what's interesting, what I've come to realise, I think, is that the things that I think are my decisions are usually accidents. And the things I think are accidents are often based on decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that we can always separate those things. You know, I think there's a blend of me and the world interacting, and sometimes I think I'm making a decision, but it's not really being made by me. It's just kind of inevitable set of circumstances direct me into a certain way. Yeah, did I make a decision to get married the second time? Well, I suppose I did, because I am married, but it doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like an inevitability.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's interesting. Yeah, good spin on that.
I want to piggyback on that, because I feel like I may be a person who feels like postponing making a decision until I've got enough information, until that decision is not a decision anymore.
Okay.
Like
okay.
me, for instance, becoming self-employed.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd asked me 30 years ago, you're going to be self-employed. Like, come on, no, I like the stability of having a job, being employed, and so on. And then suddenly stuff happened, and being self-employed was the only valid possibility back then. But then again, was it a decision set in stone? No, because if after 6 months or 1 year I realized I would not get any paid work, I could always come back to it. So like, is it a big decision then? I don't know.
Well, in some ways, you made a decision not to make a decision, didn't you?
Ah.
I'm just gonna let this run and see what happens. Inaction is sometimes it can be an action.
Yeah.
It can be a valid choice.
Yeah, I suppose it's the choice, isn't it? I suppose it's a choice.
Do you know what's interesting is the word decision has the same root as suicide
Ooh.
and patricide and
Defeat.
fratricide.
Oh, really?
It means to cut.
Cut. Ah.
Yeah. So to decide is to remove the possibilities of everything else.
Options.
Yeah. So you take your options away.
Yeah.
So, but when you think about it as a choice, it feels a bit more like there's something like it's temporary, right? It's not cutting everything away. It's like, I do this for now. Like you said, be self-employed for now. But if I don't like it, I can go back and look for a job.
Yeah.
So it's not a decision.
So it's not this kind of a hard, fast.
That's a thing I remember. So brings me back to when a time where SlideShare was still cool. There was this slide deck by Pascal van Kaumberg about real options, which is like make the decision like at the last responsible moment, not the least, but the last responsible moment.
Okay.
So that means you keep your options open.
Yeah.
And then, because sometimes, you know, like you're trying to figure out something, but you don't have enough information.
Yes.
So you can keep options open, explore 2 to 3 different solutions, and then the more information you have, you know that you have your cutoff date at some point. And like keep your options open until comes the time where you really have to make a decision. But then it will be an informed choice or decision.
It's interesting.
Last responsible moment is
Not least, not last.
last responsible moment
Yes.
is that moment that is just before the first irresponsible moment, which is usually when I make my decisions.
Oh, yeah.
There's that
That's where you have the accidents.
So this brings us very, very nicely onto a question of what do you do? So tell us what you do. Tobias, what do you actually do? Yeah.
Wow. These days, not that much actually.
Okay.
I'm technically semi-retired, I suppose.
Okay.
I still do quite a lot of writing and teaching. Nothing. You said I've written a lot. I've only actually written one book or published one book. I
Yeah, I
write
think
a
the
lot of
vlogs
short things. Yeah,
got a lot
I
of
write a
vlogs.
lot of short essay type things, and I still enjoy doing that. I mostly teach Scrum these days,
Okay.
and but organise events like the one that the three of us are going to tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a twice yearly, in-person event that's been going for quite 10 or more years now.
Yeah, it's
For
quite.
exchange, yeah.
It's a very special event, actually.
And then there's things like the facilitation events that I occasionally organise. And so new ideas come up. Noel and I for a while ran Noel Warnell, who's maybe been a guest here or will be a guest here.
Yes. Well, now you're.
Noel and I Noel's another great facilitator, and he and I ran a facilitator lab for a long time, which was inviting people in to try things out they'd never tried before and play around. So there's a sort of series of ideas that come up from time to time, and I'll experiment with it and try something out. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I haven't done a lot of workshop work recently. It's become harder to get people to come to in-person things. It's quite a challenge, actually. In fact, to get people, even online stuff, there's so much available now. That's the thing. Since the pandemic, I think, when everyone moved online, suddenly everywhere was teaching everything to everybody. And there's an overwhelm of offers. And
that's right.
So now, it opened up in a good way, obviously. I think it opened up a sort of wealth of opportunities for lots of people. But it becomes harder for people to sort of make choices around that, I think. Decisions, yeah. Which one should I do? Which of these things should I? So I found for a while there was quite a lot of work to put into something that may or may not come off. So I've kind of pulled back from that a bit, and I thought, how do I really want to spend my time? But what I'm doing, and now I'm studying psychotherapy and I'm studying theology. So I spend a lot of time learning new things.
Nice.
So that's sort of the direction I'm going in. I'm hoping at some point to become a lay minister in the Church of England.
Very nice.
That's a big long-term ambition.
Wow.
And hopefully will qualify as a human-given psychotherapist.
Very
lovely. So that'll be a new sort of change of career. Change, or just a sort of not a complete change actually. Yeah, it's an evolution.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I think that still working with people in one way or another. It's just applying a different set of techniques in a somewhat different substance. Yeah. So I'm not working so much at the moment, but I do quite a bit of online Scrum teaching, which I still love. I think it's a way of I was thinking to myself the other day, I don't really teach Scrum anymore. I teach a different way of seeing the world of work, and some of that is to do with Scrum, but more, I think. But that and every class is different. Like you've got the influence of the people who are there and their desires and their insights and. So creating these learning experiences for people.
Well, that's
multi-way learning experience.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's the beauty of it. I think, sometimes you can label something and then it limits you because you've labeled it Scrum or something. But this learning experience gives you this.
Well, the thing is, Matt, if they didn't have that label, they wouldn't come.
Well, this is it.
They come because they want to do Scrum. They want to be certified. That's what brings them in the door. But when they're in the room, then you can play.
Yes.
So,
but it's lovely if people kind of realise that you can do two things.
Yeah.
You can,
They do learn Scrum, by the way. In case anyone's wondering. I do actually teach that.
Yeah. Well, you do. You teach.
And I meet the learning objectives.
Well, we talked about that a couple of, about like teaching or...
teaching. Yeah, no, there's there's specificity, isn't there, to it when you're saying this is what we're doing. And what about yourself, Charlotte? Tell us, what actually do you do? What do you actually do?
So I think that maybe the easiest way of describing is I do workshops. So like most of the times these days people call me either because they've already seen me or worked with me. So it's mainly through word of mouth. And then maybe there's a sticky situation that needs figuring out, and then they call me, can you help us? My obvious answer is always, I don't know, let's figure it out. Because I also want to make sure that I test the waters, because the approach may not be that, what people expect.
Okay.
Sometimes they ask me to a couple of years ago, client asks me, hey, can you help us do something and make sure to focus on time management? I'm like, okay, time management, why? Well, you know, like when you want to make sure that they do their stuff and they focus on the right things. I'm like, then I said, well, okay, but this is what you're seeing. And we're going to have 50 people for the online workshop. And if I start talking about time management, most of the people may say, you know, this does not apply to me. It's for my colleague. And so they will check out. So we want to make sure that we tackle the right situation. So we might, at the start of the workshop, open up the Pandora's box to figure out, hey, what exactly is the problem here?
Right.
And so this is like a kind of, you know, an approach that may scare some people away. So like, if you're watching this, don't try this at home or something. No, but it's then also to make sure that we focus on the right stuff.
Yeah.
And not only on somebody's perception of what's happening.
Right.
So mainly, I do workshops and I also teach facilitation skills, usually with corporations on a 6-month learning track, because these are skills that you can practice. So again, it's not going to be in a half-day track that you become a skilled facilitator.
Yeah.
But I do take elements from improvisation. I do take elements from different like learning, didactics, I should say. To make sure that people have the opportunity to learn stuff, to practice it. And so through the whole retrieval practice, they will become more fluent in their skills. So that's one part, the whole facilitation, workshops and so on. Another thing that I also continue doing is teaching visual facilitation, which was the thing that you mentioned. But basically, for people, it might be learning how to draw, which is a skill that you learn in that class. What we actually learn also is how to put your ideas on paper.
Yeah.
So it's more about structuring your thoughts about like what's important, what is the minimum of information that needs to be there, what can I leave out? For instance, if I were to teach Scrum, I could make a poster about Scrum. But what is the bare minimum that I should put on there? And what are the things that I can add to it while talking about it? It's a real question, but and this is what we add on to the learning how to draw.
Well, one of the things that I've learned, from doing any kind of workshop with either of you is so much more. I've learned so much more. I remember going to one of your story sessions back in the day. Storytelling and the unfolding of a story, and it just changed my mind. It opened my mind to new things. And when Charlie, you brought something into an open space in the Agile Coach Camp last year, the sign language, I was very, very skeptical. I was thinking, how is this even going to work? And I remember even participating, and even then finding it's such a difficult exercise, but then all of a sudden you realize actually something's happening.
That was a magical moment. 2 hours of complete silence. I was at the Agile Coach Camp with Caitlin Walker, and I still remember, so we had this, basically it's a 2-hour game where you play kids in a sign language school or something who build up their language. And at some point, so you've got classroom moments and recess moments, not a word is said. And during one of the recesses, at some point, the chickens in Caitlin's backyard start making some noise. And one of the participants starts tapping very excitedly on everyone, saying the chickens are, and not saying, but pointing towards outside, that the chickens are making some noise. And then I came and I said, you can't hear anything. And this is he realized that he was actually telling everyone, hey, listen to the chickens, but actually they were, so he was so into that that was just a fantastic moment to see how much people were into that. And the debriefing of that sign game, amazing. That was just amazing.
So there's just so much that people learn from stepping out of their comfort zone and being curious about an opportunity to go somewhere where they may not usually go, to then maybe experience something that that actually changes the view of their mind in terms of how they're learning, how they do things, how they from.
I think one thing again that I've learned from you when we were doing these online Scrum things, you remember these sessions in the pandemic where I would draw and then you would do those things, and there's this lightweight scaffolding.
Yes.
And I think the sessions that I've seen you do, and I try to do the same as well, is like we have the content and we have a light scaffolding, but there's so much more which comes actually on this scaffolding, which depends on the group, which depends on the content, how we can play with it.
Yeah. So
I wanted to just add something to this conversation about workshops and learning and teaching.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about learning objectives in our world, about meeting learning objectives. And whenever I think back to that Scrum training I did with Ken Schwaber, who basically invented Scrum, and this man, Kurt Peterson, I didn't learn Scrum in that class. And no doubt they had met all their learning objectives about how to teach, what the artifacts are, what the events are. So, but I came away from there very bewildered about the Scrum, not knowing how to implement it at all. But I came away with some other things, right? So one of the key moments I learned in there is that I don't have to have handoffs from designers in order to do my work. But I can actually sit and talk to them in the same room. And that was such an awakening, that
Talk to people.
And then there was a thing about I can bring embodied learning, somatic learning into the IT world. I didn't know I was allowed to do that, And so there was these things that they were what I learned. Right. So, but they were not the learning objectives. And I think that's so important because sometimes people have said to me, "Oh, I love that class you did. I learned such and such." And I go, "I didn't teach that." Yeah, but you learned it. And so it's really interesting how those kind of workshop experiences can really be exactly what someone was looking for, but it's not what you're thinking you're giving them.
I think one of the amazing things that I myself and many others will attest to is that you have really put it out there for the metaphors, that metaphoric language, and it's just so beautiful.
And
the story stuff that Charles does, that wonderful experience at the Scrum Exchange when you picked up the book you've just been reading it on the train, I think, haven't you? The Emperor's New Clothes, and we explored that, and it's just a metaphor for everything that happens in the corporate world, is all in that story. Is quite remarkable. When it's the word metaphor, means carry across. It's a Greek word. It means to carry across. In other words, to carry an idea across from a domain where it belongs to a domain where it doesn't belong, in order to open up the way you see things. And it's an extraordinary experience to find a metaphor that suddenly things click for you.
Because the wonderful thing, I'm going to bring somebody else's modality in, is Caitlin Walker with the clean language. She's just this
she's brilliant.
The essence of this particular modality is it's almost like it's such an art. So magical.
And I found what I found super inspiring is she calls it training for attention. Because it's not just a word you use, but but when you use the word metaphor, which means to bring something across, but what kind of metaphor, and what's it like for you, and what's metaphor like for you, and then bringing this, and actually what she does then is she trains whole groups to be attentive to the other people's understanding of things. And this is
we've both learned a lot from Caitlin, haven't we, over the years? She's a remarkable teacher.
We're getting very close to the end, and we've just we've only just started. But let's do a few little kind of 60-second reveals. So let's ask you a question. So if you could have one power that you could acquire, what would it be? So that's Okay,
I would say the power of duplication, because we've joked about this, that I'm never available. I'm always somewhere. So if I can duplicate myself, maybe that could be something.
Lovely, I love that. What about you?
I can never answer these kind of questions.
Is there anything?
I think and it sounds really corny, but the power of kindness. That's really the only thing that comes up for me, because there are so many situations where I can reflect after and I think I could have been kinder
Kinda.
in that situation.
Yeah.
It's, that's probably a superpower.
Yeah.
To
Bless.
be like that all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. Well, there's one last one. Is there a particular app on your phone that you know you should get rid of, but you never will?
Oh.
Is there a particular?
WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I've tried.
You're never going to get rid of that. It's just not going to happen.
Both tried.
We both tried. We were on
You
Signal.
did try.
I'm still on Signal, but like you went back.
Fair enough.
You went
I
back.
couldn't make it work.
Is there anything else you'd like to let viewers know? We'll put all of the links in where to find you. Where should people find you mostly?
On my Substack,
Substack.
Tobias Maere Substack.
Yep.
I write a monthly
Okay.
newsletter. Still doing that. I'm up
So, yeah,
to
brilliant.
issue number 95, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And, where are you?
I'm not on Substack.
No.
No, I'm. I can be found on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put both. We'll put the links into the podcast at the end.
So yeah.
Are there, any other wise kind of words of professional, sort of like future professionals or current professionals who are coming through this kind of work, of corporate work? What would it be? What kind of wise words could you give to youngsters or,
I mean, for me, if it kind of comes immediately is that stop thinking so much and feel more.
Feel more.
Use your intuition. I think we're losing intuition.
Okay.
We're losing our poetry.
Okay.
Because it's been taken over by fact and logic and decisions, and measuring things, and we're led by our minds and we're not led enough by our hearts. So be open-hearted and trust your intuition, because intuition in the creative world, which is what software development is irreplaceable by anything else. So, and we forget we have it.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that very much. Thank you. Charlotte, any wise words?
Well, I don't know. They're not minor. So maybe they're from this T-shirt. I thought there's this quote from Plato: "Life must be lived as play." I think don't take it too seriously and experiment. Try stuff out. With play, the stakes are never as high as in the corporate world. So like you can experiment stuff, try things out, and especially when you're starting out, and find people with whom you can learn, with whom you can play. I think this is one of the
wonderful.
I think I want to add to that as well. One last thing is to say, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's saying I don't know and. Not just I don't know.
Okay.
So I don't know and.
Let's find out.
Right, and then it opened up all the possibilities.
Okay, lovely.
Instead of closing it down.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Mandy.
Tobias.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Really.
Thank you
so
much. Nice surprise.
Well, that's the end of this episode, and what an episode. I really do hope you all enjoy it. Please subscribe, share, like, comment, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Mandy.